What's going on, YouTube? Today I just wanted to talk a little bit and give a year's retrospective on the ROKA Halsey sunglasses. So you can see ROKA. These are the Halsey style. And you can kind of get some of the information there. Bear with me while I take a sip of Joe here. So I've owned a lot of different pair of higher end like sunglasses, I guess you could say. Ray-Ban. I've owned a lot of Oakley. I've owned some more like designery type brands like Prada, stuff like that are probably Luxottica. I've owned some Wiley X. At one point in time, I feel like I owned a pair of I think I owned a pair of Costas. No, I don't think I owned a pair of Costas. I owned a pair of Maui Jims though one time too, but they were like the real weird thin wiry ones, and I only got them because I found them like on sale on some website. So who knows if they were legitimate or not. From real retailers, I've owned 3 pair of Ray-Bans. I've owned a couple pair of Oakleys, and I know that I've owned a couple other luxury brands. So anyway, this was my first experience with ROKA, and I just want to talk about it. So a year in to the Halsey. So in the interest of full disclosure, I didn't pay list price for these. I don't know what these were when they came out because the style's been discontinued. I want to say they were in the range of $200, so $180 to $220. I paid $100 for these. They were on closeout at a store local to me when I heard that they were being discontinued and that they were on markdown. I decided to bite. I was looking for a pair of Ray-Ban Wayfarer kind of shaped frames, and I liked that the ROKAs had sort of a medium between that and a sports sunglass. You get like the hinged frame, but then there's no metal arms or anything like that here. The lenses are polycarbonate, so they're lightweight. And I really liked that. I also liked how, you have this sort of like, accenting on the corner there, and it wraps around the corner. And then this was just the colorway they had, this light color. I wasn't, super a fan of the clear frame or the translucent frame or not. It really didn't matter to me. I just liked the blue lenses. So, like I said, we're a year in. Let's go ahead and give you kind of my thoughts. Let's go to the good. First of all, the fit is very good. Again, fit is kind of personal to you, but I find that these glasses fit my face really well. You can see kind of the texturing here on the pads. See if I can kind of get a zoom in shot on some of this stuff. The texturing on these ear pads make the glasses really grippy. The texturing is also there on the nose pads as well. We'll talk about that discoloration in a minute. I know that's kind of nasty. The fit and finish of them is pretty good. You can see the ROKA logo there, nicely done in kind of like metal lettering, which is actually like stamped in there. You can see on the arm here there's a ROKA that's in raised lettering on the arm, but there's also, if you can kind of see that beneath that where the logo is actually applied pieces of metal. So that's very nice. And then of course frames. I don't know if they're titanium hinges, but I have done a lot of water activity in these and I've never had any issues. They're secured there with a little hex screw, which is annoying as all get out to find something to tighten it if it gets loose, but the benefit being it's harder to round that off if you're using the correct tool than to mess up a little screwdriver with like a flathead screwdriver. This gives you a more precise way to do it. So I kind of am neither here nor there on that, but I do like that they are metal hinges. I like the lens color. It's a nice deep royal blue, and you can see it has just that littlest bit of fade to like a purple on the edge. But for the most part, I really like that. Oop. Camera's going all over the place here. Let's zoom back out. The frames have a nice feeling. They're kind of like got a texture to them. but they're not super ultra thick or heavy chunky material. They're like an acetate. The shape of them is nice. Very, again, 60s sort of Ray-Ban Wayfarer inspired shape. I like the accenting on the metal on the edges. Very attractive. You can see they're just pretty decent quality materials being used here. But they are lightweight, and they do feel very lightweight, which is very cool. They are not polarized, but I think for not being polarized, the vision and clarity of them is pretty good. Hard to tell here, but they're kind of like a greenish color. See if I can kind of, that's a very inaccurate way of doing it, but it's like a greenish color in the lens. So again, very similar to like a Ray-Ban. You have that green colorway. I want to say it is it's a very nice cool green with that blue tinting. So very nice, very effective. I don't live in any area where I need to have tons and tons of polarization. It doesn't hurt, but it doesn't, I don't miss it or anything here. Now there's some things I don't like. I'll start with the obvious one. These nose pads and their discoloration. Not a fan of that. I don't really know why, when ROKA is such a brand focused on making like lifestyle sunglasses that you can wear while you're in the gym or working out or running, things like that, why they would go with a nose pad that is translucent like that. And try as I have to clean these, they do not go back to the way that they were, just from sweat and all the natural things that happen when you're doing stuff outside with these. Yeah. I love the nose pad's grippiness, just hate that they had to make them discolored. And because the frame is translucent, you can even see that discoloration from the front, which is kind of a drag, I think. I also think paying $180, I got them at a discount, but for Chinese-made frames, that's a little cheesy. Obviously, I know if it's quality in place of origin. Really doesn't matter too much about that. But when I'm paying $180 for glasses, I would expect a little more out of the overall package. You got a Chinese-made frame. You have a polycarbonate lens. It's not like it's a glass lens. It's not like it's polarized. That's a lot of money to pay here for not a lot of sunglass, really, all things considered. The design is cool. That's basically really the only thing you're paying for. And then there are slight imperfections too, like on these little pieces. You can see that that's not quite straight, and that isn't like a new thing. That's always been that way. Same with this side. It's straighter, but you can see there's some like metallic imperfections around there. And that's maybe a little bit strange for sunglasses at this price point. And then really the biggest thing that I'm not a fan of is just the durability of that coating for the polycarbonate. So it's held up decently well, but you can see there's a lot of scratches here. And before I did this video, I just washed these off. So other than a couple of fingerprints, a lot of what you're seeing there is actually scratching. And when I put these on, I can absolutely see the scratches and imperfections on that lens. Now, it's a year. That's, you're going to expect some degree of imperfections on a lens in a year. But I feel like with my Oakleys and other brands of sports sunglasses, these have had the least heavy hits and falls and scratches and things like that I can remember happening to them, and they look the worst. My Oakley gas cans that I had before these, that I broke, unfortunately, they were amazing. Their lenses could withstand ridiculous amounts of abuse, and it took a long time for me to notice my first scratch on those lenses. Whereas with these, I just feel like there was a time that I had them on a hat, and I picked the hat up, and they kind of fell off and just did this on a table, a little bit, harder than that. And they picked up scratching. In fact, you can kind of see it right. You can kind of see it right there. There's a couple scratches right there. Was it this side? No, it was this side. it just scratched it all up. So now every time I look through them on my right side, I can just see that little imperfection there, which is kind of a shame. I think from far away it doesn't look too bad, but up close and in your vision, you can notice those. So maybe a little bit disappointing. I wish the polycarbonate was a little bit better quality for what you pay. Again, maybe more like on the edge of what you're looking at with something like an Oakley. But all things considered, would I buy these again at the price I paid? Maybe. I think if I was going to pay $100, I would get something like a Wiley X or an Oakley. Oakleys anymore, I can find the gas can. If I'm not too worried about polarized or any particular kind of prism lens, I can find them in pretty standard lens designs for like $80, even less. In fact, if you're a Costco member, they have all kinds of Oakley designs that if you want to apply some points towards, you can get some really good savings on those. So yeah, kind of overpriced. I think at list price, it's a definite no. For the $100, maybe. It's okay. That being said, I do still enjoy them. I still wear them. I don't have any plans on replacing them, mainly because I will probably lose them or break them at some point, just because that's what I do. That's why I've gone through so many pairs of glasses, because I'm so horrible with them. So the fact that these have lasted a year is at least a testament to the fact that they've held up pretty decent. So they're not horrible, and I certainly wouldn't say they're a bad choice, but I could see you doing a lot better with your dollar. But if you like this design and you like this style and you want, what I wanted, a Wayfarer style glasses that is a little bit lighter weight and a little bit more sport oriented, these do fit the bill. I think maybe go for a different colorway so you don't have to deal with any of that discoloration. I would have wished that they put the kind of black or gray color here of rubber. I wish they would have used that for the nose pads and then just accepted that it was going to show a little dark through there. But all that being said, hope that gives you some ideas if you've not really seen a lot about ROKA. I think they're decent. Yeah, kind of all I have to say on that. So thanks so much.